Hi, everybody, and happy holidays! Thanks so much for checking out this episode of Release Date Rewind. I'm your host, Mark J. Parker, and I'm a movie and entertainment nerd, probably just like you. And I love movie history and fun facts and trivia and the sharing of memories and details about these old and new classics. Once a month, a friend and I discuss memorable movies celebrating milestone anniversaries. And in this episode, we're digging into quirky fantasy films that came out in December. Those are Edward Scissorhands for its 30th anniversary and Jumanji for its 25th anniversary. Now, you probably have already seen these movies, but just a heads up, we like to go into detail on this show, and there are spoilers ahead. So if you need to watch, Edward Scissorhands is currently on Stars, and Jumanji is on a few different channels or apps this month. Freeform, Vice, Pop, Epix, and FX, and maybe even more. Okay, so now it's time to rewind. Here we go. All right, everybody, I am here with a good friend, Jeff Frumess, who is also a fellow indie filmmaker, a fellow movie lover. This guy, how many I don't, you probably don't even know how many movies you've seen, Jeff, but you are a movie master.
I've seen countless films. I tried to, I started using Letterbox because I want to keep track.
Oh, yeah.
And right now I have almost 3,000 logged. But I know I've seen more than that. I just, I just go about it.
I've heard of Letterbox. Is it like a thing where you track what you've seen?
So it's a weird sort. First of all, it's really cool, and you should definitely be on there, Mark. Especially you appreciate it. But what I really love about it is this is the first time in my life that I actually have kept track of every single film I've seen this year. So starting in January, my first film of the decade, Cats.
Yes. Yep.
Starting with Cats all the way till now, I log every film, and it's very cool because I don't know. And then you can rate them, and you have friends, and you see who rates what. And it's funny every time I go to give a movie, if I'm going to be a little bit harsher on a film. And I see some of my friends weren't so harsh, and I think about their tastes and sensibilities, and I go, maybe you're being too harsh. Maybe it deserves that extra half star. Maybe you're just like they're just feeling it right now. So it's very interesting seeing how other people rate it makes me think that maybe I'm being too generous or too harsh about something, which I find very interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah, when it's the communal review, you're like, wait, how do I compare to others?
Well, no, it's not even that. It's just like I respect other people's tastes, and I'm going, maybe I was am I being too harsh here? I don't know. And I think back, I have to do a mini meditation on what I watched, and I go, I decide, and then I make a decision. Sometimes it's yes, and sometimes it's no. But it's very interesting how seeing all the data in front of you, seeing how people respond. And then there are some times where someone rates it like a star, and I'm like, oh, this is 4 stars. I'm like, oh, you're crazy. I don't even have to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, I bet you probably feel that way where you're like, let me rethink this only if you're being too harsh. But if you love something, generally, it's like, no need to rethink. I love it.
Yeah. I'd say that's pretty accurate.
Right? Yeah. But awesome to have you, Jeff. Thank you for doing this. And real quick, tell listeners about what you've done. We met online, actually. I guess it's already been a year and a half or so, and we were helping each other a little bit on our films. How are your film plans going? What are you working on? Where can people find your work?
Well, we met in my Facebook group, I believe.
Yes,
I created a Facebook group called the Filmmaker Society of Westchester. I was trying to find people to network with because we don't have anything local here.
Right.
And I was you helped me with casting for my currently indefinite hiatus limbo-laden film Wash Away, which is only 20% complete, unfortunately. Right now I sort of really, I'm gearing up to finish work on a documentary that has been probably one of my longest gestating projects. I walked away from it. Now I'm coming back. It's about the Misfits, the music band.
Oh, cool. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And I've really gotten back to bolstering my YouTube channel, and I am just constantly, every day I'm doing a video. I've done 150 uploads since March.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh my
so I'm just
gosh.
I've never been this prolific in content creation, and a lot of it's just talking head like this, video podcast, talking head stuff.
Yep.
But I've seen the numbers are slowly but surely, the watch hours. They don't look at views; they look at watch hours. Now, the watch hours are slowly going up. I'm going, man. I'm just gonna keep grinding on this because I just got monetized again, which I
Oh,
had
good.
and lost. So I'm
Oh,
thinking,
wow. Okay.
yeah, I'm thinking
Jeez.
maybe I'll do this in a more full time capacity if I really really grind it. So we'll see.
Cool. Look at you. That's very exciting. Well, good. I'm glad, you're at least you got something to work
I'm
on because it was a
trying.
bummer about Wash Away, but I'm keeping my fingers
It
crossed.
might.
I think
It's not over.
eventually,
It's not over.
yeah.
But I just don't know what to do with it right now. So
Yeah. And like you said, you walked away from this project, and I know your
right,
other film, Romeo's Distress. I feel like didn't that take you kind of like
took
would
a long
work on
time.
it, and
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
that's just,
I feel
that happens.
I'm not pessimistic about it. I just literally put it on the shelf and said I don't know how to approach this right now with COVID and everything. COVID's the
Yeah.
reason why
Yep.
it did not. We shot 20% of the film the
Hmm.
week before
Yes.
COVID hit.
It really was like
That's
March like
crazy.
10th. I feel like you guys
Yeah,
shot. Yeah.
man. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then COVID hit. I was supposed to fly down to Florida to shoot a commercial for Liquid Death Mountain Water, and then I had to cancel my flight, and I'm glad I did. It was
Oh, yeah.
definitely a good move. We had to cancel the shoot, and
Yeah.
all
Oh
fizzled
my God,
out.
I know. And
So
now here we are. It's
here we
December,
are.
end of 2020. Let's,
What a year.
let's hope for the best in the coming months. But
Agreed.
okay, so let's leave COVID in the future and let's go back to the past to December 1990. So we're going to talk about two movies, of course, but the first movie is a film that Jeff and I really really love. It has become such a beloved like cult classic, a major moment in Tim Burton's career. That is Edward Scissorhands. So this movie came out limited first, December 7th, 1990, and then a week
Really?
later it went wide on December 14th. I think because the
Whoa.
studio, which was Fox at the time, they think they were kind of like, yeah, Tim Burton just had a major success with Batman the year before, and then the year before that was Beetlejuice, so he was really cranking them out, right? So they knew this was exciting, but it's a weird movie, fantasy,
Quirky.
romance, very quirky, right? So I think they're like, well, let's do limited and see how it goes. And obviously it was a success, and we're still talking about it to this day,
To this
right?
day. Yep.
So, before Jeff and I get into the good stuff, let me just kind of paint the picture for everyone. Let's go look at the time period. So, December 1990, our president at the time was George H.W. Bush, Bush Sr., okay?
Yes,
The
sir.
biggest movies of that year were Ghost was number one.
Right.
So good. So good. Other big movies, Pretty Woman, Home Alone, which we just talked about on my last episode of this show, Total Recall, and Driving Miss Daisy. So that gives you a little variety of like the major movies that year.
Good
On
context.
Yes, absolutely, right? I feel like it helps to kind of see like where did this place, what was around it, right? On the TV side, real quick, stars like Adam Sandler, Chris Rock, and Chris Farley just had joined SNL the month
Wow.
before this. So just, kind of to put it in perspective, these guys were just starting out, right? And then another fun thing that I thought was interesting was Madonna's very explicit music video, Justify My Love, had just come out and was getting tons of controversy. So this was really when she was turning heads, and it was banned on various TV channels. So that kind of gives you a perspective on the entertainment at this time. So Jeff, before we get into our favorite moments and the background of Edward Scissorhands, why don't you tell everyone what is Edward Scissorhands about? Why don't you give us a little description, little summary?
Well, let me just pull this open. Okay, so what is Edward Scissorhands about? I mean, here's the thing. First and foremost, I have to say, upon this revisit, after not seeing it, I can't remember the last time I watched it. Like really sat down and watched it. But the thing that really came to my head, really came to my mind was, this is, I always love to put films into either like equations, like this plus this equals this film, or
Yeah.
I like to sort of look at one filmmaker through the prism of another filmmaker, because it really sort of gets the point across of what I'm trying to say. And so Edward Scissorhands it's like they said, okay, Tim Burton, we're going to give you some money to make a John Waters film.
Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah.
It
Totally.
is,
Mhm.
this is Tim Burton doing polyester by way of Frankenstein,
Wow. Oh my God. What a quote, Jeff. I love that.
right?
Yes, you're so right. I see it because
Right?
everything's very candy colored, but there's
Yep.
obviously so
It's
much
suburbia.
quirk and weirdness
Yep.
and
Yep.
darkness and yeah, and a lot of dark comedy, Yeah.
Yep.
That's
I wouldn't
great.
even, it's not even dark the comedy, well, it gets dark. The story
Yeah, you're
gets
right.
dark.
Mm-hmm.
But the comedy, this is my other observation, it's very dry. It
Yeah.
feels like a tiny little indie film. Even though it's a
Yes.
major studio film, it has the heart and the spunkiness of a tiny little indie film that could. And it
Yeah.
just the way the direction, the comedic timing, I should say, like I said, it's very dry. It's very absent-minded. Like I look at the dad, I think who's
Oh my
played. What's
God.
his name? What's the dad's
Alan
name?
Arkin.
Alan Arkin, right?
Yeah.
He's so absent-minded. He's so
Uh,
out to lunch. He's so oblivious to everything that's around him, and sort of, I mean, because you're looking at a lot of these things. It's like, um, just the fact that she brings him home to live with them,
yeah.
no questions asked, and the dad's just like, yeah, sure,
Yeah.
why not? Like,
Only the kids are like, "What?" Dad's like,
yeah,
"Okay, Edward." So,
right,
yeah,
right,
totally.
right.
Yeah.
So what is it about? Basically, it's a fish out of water story.
Hmm.
There's some Adams Family energy in there too, about like the
Definitely.
abnormal in the normal setting and the juxtaposition of the two. So you have this Frankenstein monster, basically, not monster, but
Yeah.
Frankenstein creation, who instead of
Absolutely.
being rejected by his creator dies and leaves him all alone, and a door-to-door salesperson finds him and sees the good, sees the tenderness, sees the soul inside of the monster, or the creation.
Yeah.
Because the first thing that you notice is she walks through the garden, she marvels at all the
Beautiful.
garden
Yeah.
work, all the creations, and so she finds him. She sees the scars on his face. He doesn't have stitches, but he has scars. He's
Yep.
not complete. He even says it. He says, "I'm incomplete." And
Right.
she takes him home and tries to adjust him to suburban life. And
Yes.
I would also say that this is a film. I know this is more than plot. I'm sort of like running with this.
No. Yeah. This is beautiful. Keep going.
This is a film also about disabilities, in the sense of
Mm.
like, how one's disability can be personified as having scissors for hands. Like the
Yep.
way that someone might be like shocked or not know how to process somebody with scissor hands is how some people present, disabilities. And yet what's interesting is there are a lot of people who might have a disability in one area but excel or have some
Hmm.
talent or can do something extraordinary, and they mention that when they're on TV.
Yes. Uh huh.
Right? Remember the audience mark? She says,
Oh, I love that. Yep.
if you were normal, then you wouldn't be special."
Yes.
And um and so it's a story about how Edward can't do anything with his hands except cut,
Hmm.
but the cutting he can do extraordinarily well. And I love the progression. It starts very small, and then he goes to trimming hedges. Like he
Yep.
does all these things that befriend the community, and
Yeah.
it starts from trimming hedges to cutting dogs' hair to cutting people's hair, and
Hmm.
that's like really the progression. And then he gets too close to the sun, which is the hair salon, and he flies so close to the sun, and then all of a sudden it all falls. That's the beginning. That's when it all falls apart. It starts
You're right.
when Peg comes on to him. Peg from Married with Children. What's her name? Great
Oh,
actress.
that's so funny that
Yeah.
that is actually not Katie Siegel, but it looks so much like her. I didn't even think about that.
Wait,
That is
shut up. That's not
no,
Katie Siegel.
that's Kathy Baker, who if you Google her right now,
What?
she looks nothing like that. Oh my God, I love this. I love
Stop
this.
it.
I know they made her maybe I didn't even think about that. Maybe she
Kathy
was
Baker?
an inspiration. But yeah, if you Google Kathy Baker,
I'm looking right
that's
now.
Kathy Baker, not Married with Children. Yeah, I know.
What?
That's so they could easily be
Dude, you're
like
blowing my mind right now.
sisters or cousins. Yeah, I know. If you look up Kathy Baker, she looks not a thing like that. And Kathy Baker had specifically, wanted to do this movie so that she could do something totally out of her normal kind of matronly kind of vibe. No offense, Kathy
Oh
Baker.
my god.
Um,
I thought that
that's
was
so funny.
what's
Yeah,
her
they look a
face?
lot alike. That's such a great observation.
Crap.
But yeah, you're right, Jeff. Like when you're talking about how this film is about disabilities and how people who don't have disabilities, much like you said in that TV show scene, It's like, well, if you got rid of your scissor hands, you wouldn't be special. People like that kind of intense neighbor woman. I think her name was Joyce or something.
Yeah.
People find then the disability sexy, intriguing, like kind
Right.
of a little naughty, right?
Fetishized. Fetishized.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And which is the other extreme. It's like you're either scared, you're kind of now looking at him differently. So
Didn't think
yeah,
about that. Yeah.
you really see all these different perspectives of how this guy can't control what he has and who wants what from him in weird different ways, you know? Yeah. Well, so before we get into our favorite moments, favorite quotes, all that stuff, let me tell you guys what everyone was doing at the time in this movie, right? So like I said, Tim Burton had just had his major success with Batman with Jack Nicholson and Michael Keaton the year before, right? This was actually, I thought this was interesting. Caroline Thompson wrote the screenplay. This was her very first screenplay. I guess she had written a short novel called Firstborn that I read online, and maybe you saw this too, Jeff. That Firstborn was about an abortion that came back to life. So Tim Burton naturally loved it and thought it was, I guess, twisted and great. And so they worked on the script together. And it's funny that you mentioned Addams Family, Jeff, because the writer then went on to write the Addams Family movie the following year.
That makes perfect sense.
So
the DNA is there. You can see it. You know?
You find that out and you're like, oh my God, duh, how perfect.
Yep.
And another thing, Jeff, that is so duh is I love that you're talking about John Waters and how his DNA is in this, because this same year, 1990, Johnny Depp was also in Crybaby, one of my favorites.
Love
right?
Crybaby. Yes.
John Waters. So so it's so funny how all this synergy was happening. So yeah, this year he was, the dreamboat in Crybaby, and he had just stopped working on 21 Jump Street, which made him a pretty big star earlier that year. Other stars in the movie real fast. Winona Ryder was huge at this time, guys. We already know she was in Beetlejuice, so this was her second time with Tim Burton, but she had just done Heathers. This same year, 1990, she did Mermaids with Cher. So, I mean, she was huge. Moving on to the parents, Diane Wiest and Alan Arkin, who we mentioned, they already were Oscar nominated. So, and apparently Diane Wiest, I had read, was the first person to sign on, which really helped get this thing going, because she already had her Oscar for Hannah and Her Sisters a few years prior.
She is in the both of them in this movie. They are. Yeah. I mean, she's magnetic in this film. She's magnetic. God, she's so good. She's just so. She oozes enthusiasm and sees
she is so sweet.
The good. Yeah.
Yeah.
She sees the good in everybody.
She sees nothing but the good, and it is so tragic later on in the movie. And I always thought this, but rewatching it, it really is heartbreaking when towards the end, when they're waiting at their Christmas party that no one's coming to, she says to Winona, to her daughter, like, I maybe have regrets. I shouldn't have maybe brought him down here. It's like, because she only had nothing but the best intentions, right?
Right.
So yeah, I know she's an amazing. I love her, and I love this role for her. She is like the true American mom.
She should have won. Frankly, she should have won a supporting Oscar for this role. I really think.
I agree. It's kind of crazy that she didn't get any acting
just
recognition really from this. Yeah,
really
absolutely.
Above more than anybody in this film. If you had to say one person has to be nominated for an Oscar, it would be her in this.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. So so she was already, a big deal. And then wrapping it up, Anthony Michael Hall. How funny. I kind of forgot that he's like the villain in this movie, because we knew him in the years, preceding this. Brat Pack, 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, I forgot he was on SNL for a year. But so he was this little, fun, nerdy, kid. And now I guess there were a couple years of a drinking problem before this. So that's why he looks a little different. Yeah, I had read that. So, but he's a really great villain. I hate this character so much. I always have. And then rewatching, And then last but not least, Jeff and I, of course, we love horror. We could probably talk about horror for days. Vincent Price, and his, I believe this was his
final role.
Final feature film role, right? He had done, of course, decades of iconic performances, and how absolutely perfect in this movie. I thought he was both so warm and loving and kind of scary, which he always just kind of was. He always was a little creepy, right?
Kooky.
Yes, kooky, creepy, and like, oh my God, just what a perfect final role, beautiful.
Yeah.
And apparently it was written for him, to begin with. So glad that worked out, because just beautiful.
Interesting footnote about that. I guess, I have to tell you, after rewatching this film, first of all, I think it's a masterpiece. And I think
Hmm.
it might be I mean, I love a lot of Tim Burton films. I'll go to see any Tim
Hmm.
Burton film he does because I just think he's such a genius.
Yep.
But my rule of thumb is this. If it's an original idea, it's going to be a masterpiece.
Hmm.
If it's a IP that's already existed, it's going to probably be not good.
Yeah, there are probably good moments, but it's gonna
Right.
be just weird in not the best way.
Right.
I totally agree. Really well
Great
said.
example, Dark Shadows,
Yeah,
Willy
it's fun,
Wonka.
but
Yeah, they
yeah,
have moments, Willy Wonka and Planet of the Apes, these films,
yeah.
yeah, they don't work out too great. And then the flip side, his most creative work or his original work is both unique and original, not just for him, but in general. And you look at Beetlejuice.
Oh, one of my absolute favorites.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you look at Beetlejuice, you look at Edward Scissorhands, and you know what I'm going to throw in there, even though it's about a real person. I've always said this is my single most favorite Tim Burton film is Ed Wood.
And that's so funny,
Yeah.
Jeff. That's the one I still haven't seen, which I
Oh,
am so
you're in for
embarrassed I'm
such a
even saying
treat.
that.
No,
I
no,
know.
no, no. You know what? We call that, you put that on a shame list, and it's not because you should be ashamed. It's just
Right.
a shame you haven't seen it yet, and
Yeah,
you
okay,
will.
I love that. Yeah,
That's how
I
you
know.
have to think
Cause
about it. Don't let those film snobs get you
yeah,
down.
right.
You
I'll
know
get there in my own pace. But you're so right
precisely.
because I agree with you. When he has a movie come out, I am always gonna be like, "Ooh, okay, that's on my radar."
Right
Right.
on my
So
radar.
I
Yep.
just missed Ed Wood. But so that's your most favorite Tim Burton movie? Would you
That's
say?
because it's a movie about a lot of things that are close to my heart. It's a movie about talk about 1950s schlock and
Yeah.
you know Ed Wood, the character of Ed Wood played by Johnny Depp. The eternal optimism of Ed Wood you can find in characters also like Diane
Yeah.
Wiest in
Uh huh.
in Edward Scissorhands, and it's a movie about filmmaking. It's a movie
Yeah.
about making things so bad that they're good.
Yeah.
And most importantly, it is Tim Burton taking his relationship with Vincent Price and sort of imposing it on Ed Wood's relationship with Bela Lugosi.
Interesting.
It's the same thing for Tim Burton, who was a just unbridled admirer of Vincent Price
Right.
and desperately wanted to work with him. He had made that short film called Vincent. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yes.
Oh, it's so good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Stop motion animation film, which is you can see where Nightmare Before Christmas, even though he didn't direct Nightmare
Absolutely.
Before Christmas,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
yeah, it was by Henry Selick, who also is a genius. But
Mm-hmm.
you see, you really see how much of Tim Burton is in that film, even
Oh
though he
yeah.
didn't direct it, even though he was just the producer, and he had Vincent come on and do this role, Edward Scissorhands, and it turned out to be his final role, and it was just very interesting how that was plugged into Ed Wood, and so I just love Ed Wood
Mm.
for all these reasons.
Yeah.
And you know what? I used to always be like, yeah, Edward Scissorhands, pop culture zeitgeist, everybody loves it. But I
Right.
really have new reverence for the film after rewatching it this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Truly.
I agree. I think it holds up extremely
Oh
well.
my goodness.
I bet a lot of people were weirded out by it and probably didn't see it right away, even though it was a success. That I think that's why it is so still loved because I
Right.
think people really have realized, wow, this is a beautifully made, sad, funny fairy tale. You
Yeah.
know?
It's a fairy
Yeah.
tale. It's tragic. And
Hmm.
at its core, now here's the thing that's at its core, and I'm going to make another recommendation to you, Mark.
Yeah.
You have to see Le Bête et la Belle if you have
Oh.
not.
Uh huh.
That is the 1946 black and white version of Beauty and the Beast
Okay.
by this guy Jean Cocteau, something like that.
Oh yeah, that
Something
rings a
like
bell.
that.
Yep.
That he's a
Hmm.
poet, French poet who also made films. And I'm watching this and I'm going, you know, every Universal horror film, because they're making Universal horror films at this time. This is
Hmm.
this is like France's answer, and it's a French fairy tale. This is France's answer to this and to the Universal canon, which even
Yeah.
goes back even further. But here's my point with all this. How does this tie into Edward Scissorhands? Is that most stories, most monster films, the monstrous entity, the monstrous character is usually the personification of some undesirable human trait,
Mm,
or beneath the monstrous veneer is like humanity.
yeah.
And and that's the thing, humanity gets attracted to humanity in the sense of a beast can be attracted to a beauty. They both can have the same humanity energy, but because they come in different containers, they
Yep.
can never be together. And so that's like this core concept theme that you find in all the universal horror films, all monster films. It literally
Yeah.
is the basis. It's the lowest common denominator. It's the root of it. It's
Mm-hmm.
Beauty and the Beast, and that's what this film is too. Beauty and
Absolutely.
the Beast. It's and Beauty and the Beast come from two separate worlds and can never be together, and they recognize that. And what's funny is, another interesting element is how, there's a lot of naivete and there's a lot of innocence from Edward, but he also knows more than he lets on,
Yep. Oh yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so at the
Oh yeah.
very end, we find that out, Mark, when he knows that it was Jim's house that they were robbing,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
he did it simply because she told him to, because he's in love with the one thing that he can never have, because he's
Mm-hmm.
not a complete person, or at least not complete physically, but emotionally maybe he's starting to get complete. She completes him in a
Yeah.
way,
Mm-hmm.
right? She
Mm-hmm.
helps to complete him, because he starts off the movie by saying, I'm incomplete, but by the very end, she kisses him and says, I love you. And he does this, go back and
Yeah.
watch it. He does this little
Mm-hmm.
eye roll of
Oh yeah.
ecstasy, where
Mm-hmm.
he's just like, that's all. Like, he could spend the rest of his life up there. A human being has seen me and validates me and loves me. That's all I
Yep.
need. I'm complete now. She
It's beautiful.
completes him.
I
It's
know exactly
beautiful.
what you mean. It and you really feel it as if you were like, that's what he needed.
Right.
Now he's good. Yeah.
It's him that says goodbye at the end. He's not saying
Mm,
don't stay. And he says it to her before before she kisses him and tells her that she loves him. It's his final test as a character, as whatever, because he says goodbye, meaning, I understand that we can't be together. We come from different worlds and you have to go. And when she sees that he recognizes that, that's when she kisses him and says, I love you. And then, because he completed his final test, his character arc gets to be complete, and he can simply do the thing that he does, which is just tend to his garden, and essentially he's a part of the castle, and
yeah.
that's it.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I definitely saw the Beauty and the Beast connections, and like the King Kong even,
Right.
like
King Kong,
it's
for
you're
sure.
so
King
right.
Kong.
It's in the DNA of a lot of
Yep.
these kinds of
Yep.
monster movies,
Yep.
for sure. So Jeff, do you remember, I mean, this came out in 1990. You and I were pretty young.
Yes.
So I definitely didn't see this in theaters. Do you think you did? You probably didn't.
Oh, I don't remember if I saw it in theaters or not. My
Yeah.
first film ever was in 1990 that I can
Okay.
remember seeing. I think I might have seen films earlier, but the first memory of going to the theater was in 1990, and it was seeing Spaced Invaders. So is it
Nice.
possible that I could have seen Edward Scissorhands too? Maybe.
Yeah, it is possible, but okay.
I don't
Yeah.
remember seeing
Wow.
it in
Look at
theaters, though.
you. Because
So
how old were you in 1990?
I was born in 85, so I guess
you
I was
were
about 4.5, 5 years old, something like that. I was
Wow.
born
Oh
in
my
November
gosh.
85, so
Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, you were.
I remember seeing Nightmare Before Christmas in theaters,
I do too. Yeah, that
right?
was I think 93. So yeah,
93, yeah.
I definitely remember that.
Jurassic
Yeah.
Park.
Oh yeah, that was also 93. Yeah,
Yep.
I think 93 is when I was definitely like hitting the big movies at the
Right,
theater.
right.
But yeah, not this early.
Right.
Cuz yeah, I was trying to remember my first viewing, and it must have been at home, rented, or I think we owned the VHS back then. So I can't remember the specific viewing, but I know I
Or
did watch this.
TBS or some,
Oh yeah,
TV
absolutely.
network. I mean, it was always on,
Oh yeah.
It
Oh
becomes a
yeah.
part. It's like, oh yeah, that to me that's the same as sliced bread. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, for sure.
so.
So what feel free to shout out any favorite moments, visuals, quotes. I mean, right off the bat, I'll start with, I mean, the Danny Elfman score. The first thing we see is
Yeah.
the 20th century logo with the snow falling, or
Yep.
it's really the ice flakes.
Yep.
That Danny Elfman score, the opening credits, I mean, we of course know, much like Tim and Johnny, Tim Burton and Danny Elfman did a bunch of movies together.
Yes,
What
they
a
did.
match made in heaven. The score is just brilliant. What else do you love about it?
So what I do what I do is I just write little thoughts that come to my
Yep.
mind. So I'm just I'll roll through some of these here.
Yeah.
The dynamic contrast of the production design, I think that's right on the nose. I like to pause movies to see where, I know you're a screenwriter too. I love to pause movies to see how far we are into the film before we get to a particular thing. So it's 10 minutes to get us to the peculiar element of the story, which is her going up on the hill.
Okay, that's good to know.
That was very interesting. Hole in the ceiling is never explained. There's just a giant hole in the ceiling. It's like, I guess, just a dilapidated house. Captures my imagination.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's scary. It's beautiful. And she is really brave. This woman, Peg, just to be like, Avon calling. I'm going to go up these creepy steps.
Super nosy, too. Like, my God. Like, just like, who does she think someone's up there?
She needs that sail.
Edward has a vision board.
Yeah,
when he sleeps, he has a vision board.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I never really thought much about that, but he totally does. And I wonder, I was thinking for a second, not that it matters, but like, where did he get these photos? What magazines did he find? Maybe they were just laying
he
around.
Had scissors, so
with
just
Vincent.
Cut them out. And...
and then just put them up. But he really does. And how interesting to put that in the fireplace, because I wonder if that kind of
he sleeps in the fireplace. He actually sleeps there.
Oh, does he?
His bed is in this giant fireplace.
You're so right. That's his little nook. It's I have to say, it is, and rightfully so, it should be. It is scary when he does emerge from the shadows.
Yes.
The music, I mean, you are with Diane Wiest, like, oh shit, like that is scary.
Yes.
And I think that's important because he is terrifying. And then very quickly we realize, none of this is in his control. He's actually great,
Right.
But, yeah, I always was very scared.
So in terms of his look, I wrote Gothic bondage meets The Cure, like Robert Smith from The Cure, by way of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
So he's taking the Frankenstein mythos along with Beauty and the Beast, which already Frankenstein has in it already. He's taking the Frankenstein mythos, Beauty and the Beast, and he's wrapping it up in things that, like, because, Tim Burton is like, I mean, he's like your classic goth, man. I mean, dude is like, an 80s goth, right? So it's like he's taking that, he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to put some Robert Smith in there. He's putting that with the hair, which works so well for the character. Yes. I mean, it just really, talk about like the synthesis of just brilliant production design.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Makeup lady finds the perfect place for her products. Perfect face for her products.
Oh, absolutely. Let me give you a good astringent. That's so funny. Yeah.
Right.
She finds her perfect model. You're
right. Right. Which might influence why she wants to take her home. Mm-hmm. Here's where I really started to feel the John Waters, just the gossipy neighborhood.
Oh, yes.
Right.
I love them. I mean, I hate them. You're supposed to hate them, right?
But
they're
wonderful.
Also, oh my God, they are so wonderful. All these great women, the scary religious lady.
Right.
And, oh my gosh.
Who also feels like a John Waters character. So what I wrote next is 1950s suburbia by way of John Waters. I bet he loves this movie. I would love to know if John Waters loves this film.
I'm
sure he does.
I'm sure we got to do some Googling. Yeah.
We'll Google. We'll find it out. I wrote how Edward interacts with the world, putting on pants.
Oh, yeah.
And there's this shot, and here's what I was talking about by just the direction and the dry comedy. Remember when he's putting on his pants and there's no music or anything, and then he just sort of lowers down to put on his pants, and then he comes back up, and they leave space for humor. I mean, the humor is it's so dry.
You're so right. It is so dry. It's very minimal.
Yeah,
you really have to be watching and listening. Just the little lines, the little moments. Yeah, for sure.
I wrote,
and of course he cuts his suspenders. Right after she says,
right.
"Oh, you
and
look
the water
fine.
Bed,
You look just
and
fine."
The water bed.
Oh, that water bed. Oh my God, as if water beds already weren't terrifying.
And then you can literally, he's like, as if the problem is going to go away by putting a stuffed animal over the hole.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Joyce, I just saw this strange guy driving with Peg.
Did you get a good look at it?
Hi! Scissors.
Whoa! Heck of a handshake you got there, Ed.
Kim, this is Edward, who's gonna live with us.
Well, this must be quite a change for you, right, Ed?
Those things are cool.
Can I bring him to show and tell on Monday?
He's a highly imaginative character. It seems clear that his awareness of what we call reality is radically underdeveloped.
Here's the question I wrote, and I guess the production design did tell us, but I asked this question before the production design told us. How does Edward come to life? And I'm going, how on earth does he get brought to life? And then you see in one of the flashbacks, you see how he actually started as one of the mechanical chopper guys and slowly
making
was brought
cookies,
to life.
right?
Yep.
Is that
If you look, he puts a heart in one of the flashbacks. He puts a heart on the thing that's chopping lettuce. So he goes, I'm going to turn He goes, I'm going to turn this into a person, and then you see him doing the etiquette rules with Edward, and you see the pages in the wind, and you can see the gradual progression, and Edward is one step away from becoming a man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember that is when I believe he's like sitting on the table, which always kind of freaked me out a little bit because it's sort of just his upper half. His legs are like just sort of there.
So he's mechanical, but he also bleeds. So it's a very interesting, like it really captured my imagination. At the time I said, maybe black magic, the dark arts, something that might bring him to life, because there's some element here. He's not totally mechanical. So
You're right. I actually never really thought about that he does bleed because he scratches himself and we see blood. You're so
He's
right.
got
I never really
scars.
thought about that.
So how is he coming to life? How are they bringing him to life? It really does capture my imagination. And it's not just you don't have to go, oh, this is this is a plot hole. It's not a plot hole. It's just super imaginative and super almost like creepy in a way. I don't know.
It's just like you said, maybe there is a little bit of magic. We get the perfect amount of glimpses of the inventor. We don't really know much more about him. So maybe one of those books is a spell book.
He was a cookie magnate.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's all we really know.
1990, kids sitting in a treehouse listening to the ball game on the radio.
I know.
That's what kids did in 1990.
And I love that the treehouse is also so beautifully painted and manicured. Like everything is so beautifully rigid, But yeah, you're so right. And I thought I guess I kind of forgot, even though I feel like it's a pretty big moment. That's this first time we see he's really cutting the topiary trees in the yard, right?
Right. Yes.
But I love that we are listening to the game, and it sounds like they hit the ball, and the crowd's going wild as he now is unveiling his neighborhood, creation. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yep. Treating him like a yard tool, not to rust up. They're going to wash his clippers, and he says, don't do that, he'll rust up. And in some ways, with the people, as you said, some people fetishize him, some people find him useful, some people just use him as a gardening tool.
Oh,
Literally.
yeah, for
he's
sure.
Like a gardening tool. And he's kind of treated like a mechanical object of which he was born, The church lady is probably right, I wrote. He was probably summoned using the dark arts, because she's saying he's a thing of Satan. And, she's, we look at her and we go, oh, lady, you're so stuck up and whatever. But she's probably, and in the end, we know that she's wrong, but the townspeople probably think that she's right, because all the townspeople are like, all the bad stuff happens, and then they're like, oh, church lady was right the whole time. So,
You're so right. Yeah, she ended up not being so crazy in the end.
Right.
In their perspective.
In their perspective. I wrote 21, ambrosia salad.
Ambrosia salad. This viewing of the film, I really noticed all the colorful plates and how they're all flocking to. Yes.
They're all feeding the. Ugh.
Oh my God. Yeah, they're literally like feeding him. And it's just so funny how, like I was saying, like how immediately, because he is useful in the yard, now he's sexy, and now we need to know more about him. And Peg, where have you been hiding this? Yeah. So, but yeah, ambrosia salad. Oh my God, I know.
But it is interesting. You're absolutely right. There's a fetish element. Mm-hmm. I wrote, Tim Burton loves showing cookies being made, because this montage is very similar to the montage we see in Nightmare Before Christmas when they're in Christmas Town. And you see the cookies being made. They literally do it twice. It's like a recycled element, a great element, but Tim Burton likes cookies.
Yeah. I wonder if that to him is just the so wholesome, idyllic, sweet thing to do, and then of course there's like another element to it. You know,
it's very possible. I do know that that Vincent Price had trouble talking. in this film.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so in some of the scenes, he's not saying anything, and that's because he was really ailing during the making of this film, and so it's like amazing to think that like that Vincent Price is in a '90s film. It's like a weird thing.
I know, right?
To
Yeah,
imagine.
it really was perfect timing.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're jumping ahead slightly, but real quick, just how crazy it is that this is his last on-screen role.
Right.
His character dies in the movie. He died soon
in the
after
last
this.
scene. In the last scene that his character's in, he dies.
Yes. So it really is eerily, truly perfect and beautiful, the timing and the placement of everything. Yeah. Anyway.
So, and I guess this is not really true, but in the sense of like, if I was to lose a limb, I would much rather lose a leg than a hand. And the reason why, I know it's like a weird thought to think, but the reason why is because you can replicate the motion and movability of a leg.
Yeah.
You can't. The dexterity of a hand is irreplaceable, or at least with the current technology. And so that made me think about, that's why he doesn't. The last thing is the hands. The hands were the hardest thing for the inventor to replicate. That's why he left the scissor hands for so long. Because like, why would you leave what a torturous thing to do, to leave your creation with scissors for hands?
Yeah. Oh,
you know, and it's just like, it's the hardest
even
thing.
Of course, dangerous for you, the inventor, to have like these, so, but that's a great point. Those are the trickiest things to make. So,
right. Well, I mean, I'm sure a brain is trickier to make. So
it
doesn't really work. But like, I was just trying to think logically. And a heart.
Yeah.
But like, I'm trying to just think logically of like, the hands were probably probably harder to, I don't know. You get
so
the
funny.
point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I wrote AMH, getting out of the van with arm around Winona, cringe. So,
oh, yeah.
So they don't come into the film until there's an hour left of the movie. That 45
I noticed
minutes
that too.
goes by.
I totally noticed that too, because we had only seen pictures of Kim, which, by the way, Winona looks stunning.
Yeah.
I mean, she's always beautiful, but she looks so good with this color hair. I've always thought that, like, wow, this works for you.
Yeah.
But you're right. We only saw her in a picture or two, right?
And she's at the very beginning as an old woman, but that's it.
That's right. Of course.
But
yeah.
that's it. Then we have to wait 45 minutes before they even come in. And the first thing you see is he gets out of the van with his arm around her, and it's like so like creepy and like, oh, this guy's a possessive, abusive boyfriend that like
very abusive. Yeah.
It just right there.
And I noticed this time she even says, because I believe we first see them, they're coming home from some trip, right?
Right.
And so
camping.
He's like, okay, bye. So his arm's around her, they kiss, and she even says, okay, don't forget your arm. So right away, I thought that was really, you're so right, pretty brilliant right away to have that visual and that line that it's like, okay, I need to breathe now. Like,
it's really hard to get. Try getting. If you think about the physical mechanics of how he had to get out of the van, but also keep his arm around her. It's like he's pulling her in a headlock. Yeah. And so it's kind of like, wow, what a way to introduce the villain so easily.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Another thing I noticed: Johnny Depp and liquid beds, like Nightmare on Elm Street.
You're so right.
There's blood shoots out of a bed, and then he's in the water bed, and water comes out of the bed. So that's another.
You are so right. Wow, I feel so silly. I never made that connection.
Right.
I just pictured that was Tim Burton saying like, these things are stupid. Like, let's kind of poke
clearly,
fun at them.
yes.
But you're right.
Literally poke fun. He literally pokes.
You're so right. But yeah, what a great little nod to you're so right with the water beds. Yeah. Oh my god.
The dad doesn't listen to him when he goes down to the basement. And dad doesn't listen to him. He just, has him drink a drink. And that whole scene is done just so perfectly. Talk about dry.
Oh,
just like
dry.
There's no music, and he just drinks his drink, and then he just goes.
Oh, I know. And I was also always freaked out by that noise. I'm like, what is happening to him?
He's trying alcohol for the first time.
Yeah, this is his first. I know. Yeah, and
his
again,
mechanical insides have never, tasted alcohol.
They're getting all rusted up from that acidic drink. And then again, as he's doing this, and obviously, he does.
He does, but does he or does he not?
But
it's
where does it go?
Yeah,
it's weird.
It's
because. Peg even like feeds him like some of the snacks, and then he's eating, at dinner and everything. But again, you're so right, because dad is so vacant that he's not listening. Here's Ed having a terrible time with this alcohol, and dad just kind of look at him like, it's good, huh? Like,
No, he's
Yeah.
talking about teenage girls and how their
Right.
glands develop.
Oh yeah, glands.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, it just gets like really sort of wacky in that kind of way. And the other thing I wanted to say, here's another interesting revelation. I don't know if Edward Scissorhands actually has any skin.
Interesting.
All that bondage stuff might be holding in all the mechanical stuff underneath. He doesn't
Yeah.
have any skin, dude. That's why he's wearing
Yeah.
clothes. That could be his skin, just his face. That's the only thing that was completed.
That's
so it's
interesting.
very
Yeah.
possible that all
Yeah.
that stuff is just the belts and everything. That is all there to hold a lot of stuff together.
Yeah.
Really sort of creepy and like fucked up, but like it might be. I don't know.
Totally. Totally.
Because like, why
And
does he ever take off his clothes and put it when he's wearing the regular clothes? Why does he keep all that stuff on? Because
All
there's
that
nothing
stuff on.
underneath.
You're right. That's just kind of like the sheath that's keeping everything.
Yep.
You're so right. And fun fact, I had read, I think it took something like an hour and 45 minutes every day to do all that
Wow.
makeup and wardrobe. So
Wow.
yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
That is amazing. While he's cutting trees and stuff, you hear Tim Jones music a bunch of times in this, and Tim Jones would later be in Mars Attacks and actually
I
is
know,
in the
yep.
film. So I'm like, there's another interesting element of Tim Burton using this thing in two different movies. Didn't even cross my mind initially. I wrote
Tom Jones, right?
Tom
I
Jones.
think
Sorry,
it's-
not
is it
Tim Jones.
Tom Jones,
Sorry,
yep,
I meant to
mhm.
say Tom Jones. It's not unusual,
Absolutely. Yeah.
You were saying
Uh-huh.
you said it a lot better than I did. What I wrote was they're intoxicated by his talents. Hair cutting is like sex, but like
Yeah.
when she sits down, she literally has an orgasm as she's cutting.
Oh my
hair.
God. Yeah,
So,
you're right. Uh-huh.
no, you're right. That was. I totally agree with you. It's like the fetish. They fetishized getting haircuts. It's like it's an orgasmic experience because they're not getting laid by their husbands, and so they see and I think if maybe John Waters was making this film, like the housewives would be sneaking into the house and sneaking Edward out of the house and
Ooh.
using him for sex and then bringing him back the next day. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Totally. You're right.
So-
And it is so euphoric. These women with their tresses being like blown all around.
Right.
And yeah, absolutely.
right. I wrote that this is an unremakeable film. There are some
Yeah.
films that can be remade. My rule of thumb is I don't think remakes are evil. I think that people remake the wrong films. Don't remake good movies. Remake bad films with good ideas. There are so many interesting films that have wonderful ideas and are cherished and appreciated, but are not executed in the best way. And it's like,
Yeah.
give those movies a second bite of the apple. You could never remake Edward Scissorhands. You need every single element, every single thing. There is no, and that's why when you look at a remake like Total Recall, when you look at a remake like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, you just go, and I mean, I guess it was a good idea on paper. Let's get Tim Burton and his wackadoo ideas. They were thinking, oh, we'll put Tim Burton's production design over this. It will slack Tim Burton over this, and people are going to love it. And the problem is, these things come together in the perfect synergy that helps make it what it is. And when a remake crashes and burns, it does so because you're trying to like capitalize, or you're trying to milk something that's no longer there. It's like, it just don't work. It just don't work.
I think that's brilliantly said. You're right. Yeah, no, this film is so truly unique and special
Yes.
that you have to be a moron to try to. There's no other way to do it. No other vision. It's done.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the story of Icarus and Prometheus. They both have the similar theme of either
Right.
soaring too high and then crashing and burning, or stealing something that doesn't belong to you. He can make it snow in a place where it does not snow. That's his elemental. That's the culmination of the thing with the scissors. His talent builds to this place where he can make it snow in a place, and that's the moment where she realizes how special he truly is. And we find that out at the very end. The great reveals. How do you know he's still alive? He can make it snow in a place where it does not snow. And really,
yes, I think the line is before he came down here, it never snowed, and afterwards it did. If he weren't up there now, I don't think it'd be snowing. I typed that out because it is just so beautiful, and the music, and it's still very sad that like he's just right there, but like we
melancholy.
don't.
It's just melancholy,
Yeah,
man.
and how she says, oh, I wouldn't want him to see me like this. I want him to remember how I used to be. It's just, oh my God,
Right.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. It just gets horrifying and dark. It just the movie just turns. It takes a left turn right after Peg tries to comes on to him. From that moment on, the movie just goes downhill, not in terms of goodness, but in terms of like it just gets dark, man. It just gets real dark.
It now gets
Reality sets
really
in.
complicated. Yeah. And now it's like, oh, how do we take a step back? And I never really caught it before, but after she does her very scary and strange seduction in that back room with the smocks. And then what's the line? I wrote down the line. She said, "Oh, Eddie, you're trembling. So am I." It's like, oh. But after that, he goes to meet the family for dinner or something at a restaurant. And he says, "Oh," and she just took off all of her clothes in the back room. And again, Dad is not listening, like, "Oh, yeah, so anyway, we're going to have to do this." While everyone else, mom, daughter, and son all look, and they look downright like scared and worried. But yeah, that's when things take a turn, because then for that woman, now the stakes are higher. And then she starts lying, saying, "Well, he almost raped me." I mean, then it gets just, I mean, Tim and the screenwriter then show you just how you were so, loved and admired. And just because things didn't go a certain way for someone, now you are the villain.
Yeah, and they pull you in. They pull you in to make you like, oh, this is such a feel-good story. He's getting embraced. And like, nobody's making notice of the fact that he's just like literally looks like the creepiest, gothiest person. They're like, oh, he's so wonderful and blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, they just turned it around, and like, the fact that he can't lower his hands because his knives, because knives are attached to them, and being used as a patsy, and just like,
and you're right. Not only is he useful for pets and haircuts and yards, but he's useful to break into things, to open doors. He does it a few times, and it's like, everyone needs him for something until suddenly he's sort of blacklisted, and. Now it truly is like King Kong, Beauty and the Beast. The townspeople are rioting, get him out of here.
Frankenstein, it becomes a story. So Tim Burton really knows how to like take like everything that he's doing is original, but all the stuff behind it is not. It's been around forever. These are gold standard institutions of storytelling that he has found a way to wrap them up in a very unique package. A guy who is brought to life with Scissorhands that just cuts stuff really well. And again, it's weird to think that this was a studio film. It's not a sequel. It's not anything. It was just a completely original film that came out. And that was back in the day when people took risks on things. And it's just amazing, really. And to think, and that's just one movie. You can't even, like, that's just one movie of the phenomenon that is Tim Burton in everything that he's done, So,
absolutely. I love it. I hear you. And one last thing that I love about this movie is I love that when Winona's character, Kim, does, towards the end finally come around, and she loves this guy and she knows that it's not going to be great for him. I love that in the big finale, you have crazy Anthony Michael Hall, who is truly unhinged.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of violence. He's hurting her. He's hitting Ed, when they're back at the mansion. I love it. Oh, my God. I love it when Winona grabs that like piece of wood, hits her boyfriend. She grabs Edward's hand and puts it up to, like, whoa, and
like,
says,
"I'll
stop
kill
it
you."
or I'll kill you myself.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. She is no longer on the fence. It's really awesome and so badass. And then of course, I always was pretty scared. And going back to what you said, how Edward, is a very nice, innocent guy, of course, but he does sort of know things. And the way he so quickly
he makes him dead. He makes him dead. He's like, you need to go.
Yeah, like, that animal instinct of I'm winning, like, you have to go, and how he just,
his face
with a
changes.
Quick little,
his face changes. He just knew.
You're so right.
You know what it was? It was a neutralization. That's what it was. It was like he neutralizes him. That's what he's doing. It's not even like necessarily like I want to murder you. It's like you need to be neutralized immediately right now because you are doing damage to me. You're doing damage to her. And Yeah.
Before we wrap up Edward, some quick little fun facts. So I thought this was interesting. Tim Burton originally viewed this as a musical. He was thinking about making this an actual musical since it felt so operatic to him, which is interesting because I know a few years ago I saw it in Philly. Yeah, it's now a live, theater ballet story, which really works well. So I thought that was interesting. Tom Cruise was the preferred choice for Edward.
Stop
the studio
it.
really wanted Tom
Stop
Cruise.
it.
Tim Burton even met with him. They talked, but it didn't work out, obviously.
Speaking of Tom.
Yeah, I know. Speaking of Tom, how funny. I know. How funny that we have two men that are kind of, problematic nowadays with Johnny and Tom. But yeah, they really were pushing for Tom Cruise. It was not a good fit. And Tom apparently wanted a happier ending. But it's like, no, that's beautiful because the ending is sad.
Did he have that kind of star power yet?
I think he did because of like Top Gun and Cocktail.
Right. Top Gun.
That was like
that was the big
those
movie.
late 80s.
Yep.
Yeah. What else? Nick Carter of the Backstreet Boys is an extra in this movie. I didn't see him, but I saw it online. He is one of the kids in the neighborhood. So how funny that a random connection. And then of course, we know that Johnny and Winona were, Winona
Wino
forever.
Wino forever.
The famous tattoo. They
Yep.
they met, they fell in love after only 5 months of dating. They were engaged for a few years. So it's kind of funny to rewatch it and see the chemistry is amazing. So
Yes.
I get it. But yeah, and apparently going back to Ed Wood, I had read that because he made that after this, and that was apparently shooting as the breakup happened. And so Tim Burton is quoted saying Johnny Depp would cry every day and just sob on the set of Ed Wood because of so how funny, right? Yeah, just like a little
Well,
thing,
he didn't show it, man, because he
Yeah.
This is gonna be your favorite movie, man. Not your favorite movie, but you're gonna really love. I think you are really going to appreciate Ed Wood. When you watch it,
Nice.
you will appreciate it.
So and then Edward Scissorhands was nominated for an Oscar for Best Makeup, of course. Won the BAFTA for Best Production Design, obviously well deserved. So yeah, and as we said, it's a cult classic, made lots of money, well deserved, and we love it.
Amen.
Hey, call a doctor. He skewered Kim.
Just a scratch. The power of Satan is in him. I can feel it.
Drop your weapon!
All along, I felt in my gut there was something wrong with him.
From Tim Burton comes the most incredible tale of a most unusual character. Edward Scissorhands.
Hold me. I can't.
So let's now fast forward a little bit, 5 years into the future. December 1995, Jumanji comes out, and of course, it is the biggest thing ever, right? Came out, why? December 15th, which is funny because I never really think of this movie as a Christmas movie, a December movie. I always thought it was like, a big summer movie.
Yeah, just blockbuster. That's what I think.
Just feels very, very like July to me, But so it was December, and which is funny because then I guess I haven't seen the sequels with the Rock. And
me either.
Those are also December movies. So I guess that's the thing. But so like we did with Edward Scissorhands, I'll give you a quick little background on everything. So our president was Bill Clinton at the time. Big movies of 1995, we had Batman Forever, Apollo 13, Toy Story. Of course, the first Pixar movie came out just a month prior to this. It was huge. So those are big things. Waterworld was a big movie in 1995, of course. And so Jeff, why don't you tell me, if you can remember, tell me what is Jumanji about? You want to describe what you remember of it?
Jumanji, this is actually kind of fun. Usually I always always rewatch the movie so that I'm super fresh on it, but this is really fun because I haven't revisited it for recently. I probably have not seen this movie in 15 years, maybe even longer. I'm
this will be fun. Okay.
All right. It's about a boy he's like fighting with his dad. His dad wants him to go to an academy, and he's like, "Fuck you, Dad!" He rips up the pamphlet for the academy. He finds the game. The game has been around forever. It's an immortal game. Every once in a while, someone discovers the game. When they open it up, they get sucked into the world of Jumanji. That happens to the young kid. Robert Parrish is his name.
Wow.
I can't believe I remember that.
You remember all that?
I remember that. Yeah, his name was Robert Parrish, and his dad worked in a shoe factory or something, and he smoked a pipe. He's a famous actor. As a matter of fact, his dad also plays the gamekeeper, I believe. The warded
He's
guy.
like the hunter.
Yeah. So it's an interesting, which kind of reflects on his relationship with his father, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
And so he gets sucked into the game. Fast forward years later, he grows up in the game. He's like a wild man, blah, blah, blah.
Wild man.
Two kids, they pick up the game, they start playing. It's basically the movie can be summed up as shit comes out of the game. It's wild, it's crazy. There's wild and crazy CGI animals. I don't know if the CGI holds up or not. You'll let me know, Mark.
Yeah.
And they got to keep playing. They got to complete the game in order to make it all go away. But in the process, dude gets sucked back out of the game, finds the girl that he was like sort of like sweet on, who happens to still be single, like shaves his beard. He has that big bushy beard. He's dressed in like plants and stuff. And, and then his nemesis comes out of the game. His nemesis, who I guess is in the game, is somehow like in that, there's like a whole other dimension. It must be another dimension.
Or he's just like in the jungle. So not only do you have all these wild, crazy creatures, but you have this insane hunter. Yeah, it's kind of.
But would you imagine it's really just a gateway to another dimension?
It might be. Yeah, I mean,
because he had to grow up. He had to be. Where does he come from?
Yeah.
Did he go to school? Did he like it has to be like it's like a mirror world sort of thing.
You're so right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I wonder if he got sucked into it, and that's why he has become.
He could also have gotten. That's another potential because eventually he gets a better rifle. Oh, yes. He goes into the gun store and he's like, how much? And he's like, he throws him some gold doubloons, which are worth like.
Yeah.
And he gets the high tech powered rifle, and just a lot of it's just. I'd say it's fairly like formulaic in the sense of it's just like crazy sequence after crazy sequence, and then him and the girl fall in love, and the kids they kind of make this like sort of patchwork family dynamic sort of happens, and they beat the game, and everybody's happy, and that's what I remember.
Wow, Jeff, good job. Because I hadn't seen this movie in a while, but I would not have been able to give so many like really clear details. So you win. Great job.
Thanks.
That's it. That's Jumanji. The only thing is you forgot that at the end, once which I had forgotten, and I actually think it's a pretty cool way to end it. Once they finish the game and everything's sucked back into the game and things are back to normal, they are then back in 1969. I had forgotten that then Robin Williams and Bonnie Hunt, they're kids again, much like, but they know, they
remember
know
everything. And you throw the game into the river.
Yes, exactly. Good memory.
Right.
They get rid of it, right? And then it washes up on the beach somewhere in like France at the very end. But so then they grow old. They're not old, but they then go back into the future, 1995. It's now, they're older adults and they meet Kirsten Dunst and the boy and they already know them, right? From the game.
Right. But here's the thing.
It's like a weird Terminator thing.
Right. Yeah. But here's a weird take on this though, Mark. So they're kind of like vampires in the sense of like they like it almost in a torturous way that they've literally lived twice. They're like 60-year-olds inside.
Oh yeah. They have lived extra years because of the game.
Like 30 extra years. Like they've been alive.
Jumanji. You want to play? Alan, look. In the jungle, you must wait until the dice read 5 or 8. What's happening to you?
26 years later, Peter and Judy Shepard are about to play the same game.
Little bit of info. I had forgotten this was directed by Joe Johnston, who is a pretty big, action adventure guy.
Incredible filmmaker.
Yeah, he knows how to do these kinds of movies, so it makes total sense that it was him. Before this, he had done his big movie.
Rocketeer.
Leading up to this, Rocketeer. Oh my God, I knew you would love that. One of my absolute faves. A movie I've been wanting to rewatch, so I gotta.
Oh my God, I just rewatched it this summer.
Yeah.
I just want to say this. For years and years and years, I always said that the Rocketeer is the closest thing we're ever going to get to Captain America. And I said, if they ever made a Captain America movie, I would want the guy who did Rocketeer to make it. Yeah. And lo and behold, the dude who made Rocketeer was the dude who made Captain America.
Yes, it's perfect.
It has all that stuff in it. And Captain America, First Avenger, has all that Rocketeer goodness. It's
that like truly like a classic, simple,
American,
Billy Campbell in the Rocketeer, he already was basically Captain America, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
love
true.
it. So we had Joe Johnston. Of course, the cast is pretty great in this movie. I mean, it's a true fantasy comedy. Robin Williams, Bonnie Hunt, who, when I just rewatched it, I forgot that actually she, to me, I feel the most for her. She is so funny. If you remember, Jeff, obviously in the beginning when young Robin Williams is sucked into the game, now this girl he was with, Sarah, runs off. She is like screwed up for life. I mean, she saw this boy get sucked into a game. No one believes her.
Oh, that's right. He got sucked into the game in front of her, and she had therapy bills.
She had absolutely.
She says the thing about therapy, right?
Yes, she has a great line once they like get, and I thought it was pretty brilliant to realize, okay, now we have 4 players, right? Because the kids, Kirsten Dunst and the boy, I don't know his name. I don't think he really did much else. They of course find the game in the house that they move into, and then those pieces are magnetic, which was a cool, creepy, like, whoa, now you're locked in, right?
Right.
And so once they meet Robin Williams and everything, now he's like, oh wow, the 4th player is this Sarah Whittle. So, but kind of funny that she still lives in town.
4 players because
to finish it.
Yeah, to finish it. Right.
To because it was only 2.
They track her down. Yeah, they track her down.
So they track her down, which it is kind of funny. Someone that obviously had so much trauma, and she says no one believed her, you know? And it's kind of weird because obviously Robin Williams is amazing. I can't imagine anyone else in this role. He's so great and full of energy, but his character at times is kind of an asshole. Like he sucks her back into this game when
actually I don't remember that. I don't remember him being an asshole, but I'm sure
I
didn't
remember it either.
Yeah.
But there were some examples of he forces her back to this game. She is literally saying no, like she's on the phone with her doctor, which is kind of funny. She's like, I'm having an episode today and I'm seeing someone from my past. You know, it's pretty brilliant. But like then she's like, I'm not playing this game. Like I have had years of terror. And he even says, here, like, give me your hand. As he puts the dice in her hand. She's like, no. Right. He's like, here, give them to me. And as she goes to drop them in his hand, he moves them. And then, so she's now sucked into playing the game. You know what I mean?
Right.
He does these little tricks with her. There's a little bit of a competition with them. And I get it. You know, you want to have some tension. They kind of hate each other, then they love each other, you know. But like how he's like, I've been alone in a game, you know, for years. And she's like, I've been alone in real life. Like no one was at my birthday party either. And he's like, oh, I had it worse. It's like, well, she also had a really shitty, you know. So it's kind of funny how he doesn't really care at all about her experience, you know. I didn't really catch that at all as a kid.
He's like selfish about it.
He's a little selfish about it. He's like, no, like I've done this. Like we gotta get this over with. She's like, I don't want anything to do with this. Like this ruined my life.
Wow,
you know?
I really want to rewatch. Now I really, really, really want to rewatch it because like I forgot about that stuff. Yeah.
And finish the game together.
It's not my turn.
Whose turn is it?
Sarah Whittle? Alan. 26 years ago, we started playing a little game.
Oh, God, sir! I have spent over 2,000 hours in therapy convincing myself that it doesn't exist.
Sarah, we're all gonna sit down. We're gonna finish it.
Real quick, just a little bit about me with this movie. Like, I think the movie aged well. I mean, it's still super fun. It's a total.
What about the
thrill
CGI,
ride.
Mark? Did the CGI age well?
The CGI, a lot of it was animatronic, and then there was a lot of CGI with the monkeys and everything. It's not great. It didn't age well, but I don't really think many CGI movies age well, even from 5 years ago. It's kind of like,
right.
You know, there's sometimes
Jurassic Park. I would argue Jurassic Park aged pretty well.
Yes, that was cream of the crop. Like that will never look bad, right? This is a little more video gamey. The monkey, you know, it's a little more, you know. But I think it's part of part of the fun, you know. It's part of the joy of rewatching this, you know. But I definitely saw this in theaters. You might have too, because it was.
I definitely saw it in
movie,
theaters.
right?
Yeah, of course.
And I loved it so much that I was the kind of kid. This came out for me in elementary school. I forget exactly. I guess I was like 8 or 9. I was the kind of kid that I was making remakes before they were popular. Like I would rewrite the movie as like a 10-page script, make a short version of it, and cast my friends, like my favorite teachers.
You were casting even back then.
Oh yeah, on the playground. Like, okay, guys, like I would handwrite these scripts. So Jumanji is one of those movies. It was like Jumanji, Grease, Twister, you know, like random movies, Scream, of course. So that's why I love this movie. You know, I don't know if I don't think I love it as much as rewatching Edward Scissorhands, where it's like, wow, you know, this is, but also it's a very different movie. There's not much heart to this. And I think that's why critics didn't really love it, is that it is a little, I don't want to say nasty, but it's a little mean-spirited at times, you know?
Well, what's interesting, as you bring it up that I completely forgot that he manipulates her into playing. So you have to think, she spent 30 years or whatever dealing with the trauma of seeing this guy get sucked into the game. She's finally making strides in her life in some way, shape, or form, or her life is what it is. And against her will, she's basically sucked back to 1969 and has to do it all over again.
Yes.
And it's
totally.
like, fuck you, dude.
Totally. And there's not even like a line or two that's like, listen, I know this is hard. And maybe there was, but in my opinion, it wasn't enough. It was like, if we made this nowadays, I think we'd cut her some slack and like just add one more scene where it's like, you know, let's please work together.
It's like
there's not.
She's being forced to look at trauma. And that's the thing about trauma is sometimes, and I'm not, obviously this is such a subjective thing, so this is not a blanket statement. But sometimes trauma is best left like as the mud at the bottom of the river. You don't want to kick the mud and create muddy water.
Totally,
it's just like, leave it the fuck alone.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's like,
and he's totally
like, hey,
kicking it.
Come back.
And I don't know if it's because she's like a woman or just, but yeah, it was just interesting to see this competition when it's like, no, you both have had it bad. Don't worry. Like, yeah, Robin Williams, you've been in the jungle. You've had to use, as he says, banana leaves to wipe your butt. Like you're doing all sorts of crazy things.
Right.
But she opens the door when we revisit her as an adult, and she is like a ball of nerves at all times.
What do you want?
So, you know, she's like the Laurie Strode in Halloween 2018. I guess sort of. I mean, Laurie's pretty tough, but you know, she's like really gone through some shit.
Laurie Strode of maybe H2O.
H2O, yes, there you go. Yes.
Right.
This movie, like I said, it was meant to be a thrill ride, and then I thought while I was rewatching it, why was this never a ride anywhere? But I guess apparently it is,
I'm sure
was.
It had to have been.
In Universal Studios Louisiana. Did not even know that was a thing.
Didn't even know there was one in Louisiana.
Yeah, but so there's a 4D Jumanji ride where it's like, I guess you walk through the house and then sit through a 3D movie. So
I wonder if it's relevant. I'm sure that ride is picked up with the revival of the brand.
I would think so, right? Yeah, yeah. So and speaking of the revival of the brand, I just kind of assumed, I mean, I didn't love that it's a video game now instead of a board game because I loved that board game.
Is that what the hook is? I really don't know anything. I haven't seen it.
I believe so. Because I remember they're like playing a video game and then I guess they get sucked into the video game. Cool, but like to me, I mean, Jumanji's that board game, right? With the pieces and the map. I loved it.
Now, did you see Zathura?
I didn't see Zathura with, I think Kristen Stewart was in it, but I
Jon
guess it's
Favreau.
a spiritual sequel, which I didn't even know.
It's a spiritual
Did
sequel.
You see it?
I have seen it. It is excellent.
Oh, okay.
I love it. Dax Shepard is in it. He's really great
I love
in it.
him. Okay.
I was about to say more than that. I was like, wait, I'd rather just watch it. Just go watch it.
And it's like a spiritual sequel. It's not super connected to Jumanji, or is it, Jeff?
I don't know. Well, I mean, in this thematically, you know, I got to be honest with you. I haven't seen it since it came out, which was 15 years ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah,
and I don't remember how connected it is to Jumanji. It is a spiritual sequel. I don't know if it's based on source material.
Yes, because the same writer of the children's book of Jumanji, which was in the 80s, he also wrote the book Zathura.
That's why it's there, and it's basically the outer space version of Jumanji.
Cool. Okay. And I just got to give a shout out. Great little supporting roles for David Alan Greer, who we know is funny and everything. He's in Jumanji
as security cop.
He's a cop, and in the past, he works for the boy's dad in the shoe factory, and he has this great idea to make these cool sneakers. So then, he has stayed in town as the cop. He's screaming like a lunatic with all these crazy things, and he's super funny. And a good pairing with him is Bebe Neuwirth, who's also great. She is the kid's aunt, if you remember. So
don't remember that at all.
She's done tons of theater and Frasier, and I love her in The Faculty. But so she's also got some fun stuff because she lives with Kirsten Dunst and the boy, and then she's screaming with David Alan Grier at all these things. So, and what's another little fun fact about this movie was I didn't even realize it really did shoot in New Hampshire and Maine, and the building where the shoe factory is, the big Paris shoes, is only half an hour away from me. So I think I might have to go and
you gotta go check that out.
I think now it's like a senior citizen living community, but I mean
I'll
still go.
Yeah,
I'll take a picture. You know,
why not, man?
But yeah, so that is Jumanji. Any other things as we wrap up, Jeff, that you want to mention about either film? Any other memories?
That's the best part about revisiting films. The best part is when you watch them when you're older, you make all these, either A, you make different connections, or B, you come up with hot takes. You ask yourself questions. Well, why is this? Because I never questioned why Edward Scissorhands was Edward Scissorhands. I was like, wait a minute, why doesn't he ever take off his bondage gear? Why doesn't he, or how was he created? You know, it's just like you start to add, and then you have to come up with answers, and the answers sometimes, the answers are actually answers, and sometimes the answers are anti-answers.
Right,
in the sense of like, I don't know why, you know. So it's I don't know, it's very interesting.
Yeah, get out those like instinctual thoughts, you know, because it's been so much time. What are the things you remember? How you know immediately how they made you feel, right?
Yep.
Whereas sometimes, when you rewatch, you know, it changes those immediate, you know, reactions. So totally. Cool. Well, thank you, Jeff. This was awesome.
Thank you for having me, Mark. This was great, truly.
Thanks so much for listening. And if you haven't already, please leave a rating and or review on the podcast app you're using. Please subscribe. And please follow us on Instagram. We're at Release Date Rewind on there. You can see bonus content, previews of the next episode, and any old pictures and publicity of these movies on Instagram. Thank you very much to Greg Clements for our podcast logo, and thank you to Kyle Motzinger for our theme song, which is the instrumental version of his song, Dance This Out, which was produced by Smoke and Mirrors. The song can be found on his album, Any Way I Want It To, on all digital platforms. Stay safe and warm, everybody. See ya.